Cathy Engelbert didn't expect to hand over a phone to federal agents. But when the FBI showed up with subpoenas in hand, the illusion of control dissolved. The investigation has cracked through the WNBA's surface, exposing deeper vulnerabilities that officials failed to address. Already battling criticism over officiating and competitive integrity, the league now finds itself entangled in a sweeping probe implicating top leadership, players, and staff. Meanwhile, the NBA faces its own reckoning, with Adam Silver at the center and high-profile names like Terry Royer under indictment. The inclusion of the Lakers, one of the league's most prominent franchises, has shattered any hope that this was a minor scandal. This isn't just about wrongdoing. It's about what those in charge allowed to go unchecked.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The widening scope of this investigation points to more than just a series of crimes. It reveals a structural rot within professional basketball's most prestigious institutions. Allegations of insider betting, game manipulation, and misused information suggest a culture of silence and protectionism that reached the highest levels. With both leagues' reputations hanging in the balance, fans and sponsors alike are re-evaluating their trust. The coming fallout won't just impact a few names. It could redefine the governance and future of the sport itself. The FBI just bulldozed its way into the NBA and WNBA, and the fallout is seismic. We're not talking about a leak. We're not talking about rumors. This is the real thing. A full-scale federal investigation is underway, and it's hitting the highest levels of professional basketball. Subpoenas have gone out. Phones have been seized. Properties have been searched. And two of the sport's most powerful figures, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, are officially under scrutiny. This isn't internal league discipline. This isn't a slap on the wrist. This is the federal government looking into potential illegal gambling, insider trading, and game manipulation across both leagues. And it's not just talk. Players, coaches, staff, arrests have already happened. That includes current NBA player Terry Rozier and coach Shannon Phillips. These aren't fringe figures. These are no-names, established professionals, and their involvement signals that this goes far beyond just a few bad apples. This looks like a system-wide rot. League scandal. The Los Angeles Lakers are already in the spotlight. Multiple staffers reportedly handed over their phones voluntarily. The implication? They either knew what was coming, or there's something serious enough happening that everyone's lawyering up. If this were an isolated incident, maybe you'd get one rogue agent. But when teams are turning over data and the FBI is issuing grand jury subpoenas, it's bigger than anyone thought. And now fans are left wondering, how far does this go? This is a crisis of trust. The integrity of the game is under question. Betting scandals, confidential information being misused, the potential for match fixing, all of it cuts straight to the foundation of professional basketball. These leagues are built on one assumption, that what happens on the court is real, competitive, earned. Take that away, and what's left? The leagues are scrambling. Public statements have started rolling in, filled with the usual buzzwords: cooperation, transparency, due process. But none of that changes the fact that the FBI now controls the investigation. Not the league office, not PR, the authorities. And when federal investigators are involved, the priorities change. They're not trying to protect brands or careers. They're trying to uncover crimes, which means anyone, no matter how high up, can be pulled into this. Cathy Engelbert, who was brought in to bring stability and business credibility to the WNBA, now finds herself linked to a criminal investigation. And Adam Silver, who's been praised for his leadership in modernizing the NBA, is facing what may be the biggest test of his entire career, possibly the end of it. And that's not exaggeration. If federal agents find that either commissioner ignored warning signs, failed to enforce safeguards, or worse, knowingly overlooked misconduct, it's over. Resignation isn't a question, it's a formality. This scandal isn't about poor officiating or off-season drama. This is about criminal activity infiltrating the very core of the sport. Gambling, manipulation, insider trading. This is Wall Street-level corruption, but on a basketball court. And the timing couldn't be worse. With legal sports, betting growing faster than the leagues can regulate, this exposes how poorly equipped they were to handle the risks. No matter how much revenue betting brings in, if the leagues can't protect their own data and ensure fair play, it all becomes meaningless. The Dallas Wings recently fired both their head coach and general manager, and it's not hard to connect the dots. Whether it's a direct result of the investigation or a preemptive move, it shows how teams are reacting. Fast, quietly, desperately trying to distance themselves before more names go public. That's the other issue. Right now, we've only seen the beginning. 1 or 2 indictments. A handful of phones seized. But the FBI doesn't knock down the door unless they already have a file full of evidence. Which means more names are coming. More players. More coaches. More executives. And the league's own failure to catch this earlier? That's its own scandal. If the FBI can uncover evidence that league officials missed, or worse, ignored, that's a whole new level of liability. The questions become much darker. How long has this been happening? Who looked the other way? Who profited? This is no longer a sports issue. It's a legal, ethical, and political one. Congressional committees are already paying attention. Once Capitol Hill gets involved, it's not just about fixing the game. It's about accountability and potential regulation. It's not far-fetched. If the leagues are found to have failed in basic oversight, legislation could be introduced to force reforms. New rules, mandatory reporting, federal oversight of sports betting practices. Because this is bigger than just basketball now. It's about public trust. The moment a fan has to ask, was that game rigged, is the moment the sport loses its soul. And that's what's at stake here. Even for those who did nothing wrong, the damage is real. Reputations are getting dragged through the mud just by association. Innocent players and coaches are now forced to prove they weren't involved. Sponsors are getting nervous. Networks are watching carefully. And the fans? They're fed up. No one wants to cheer for a league that can't guarantee fairness. No one wants to invest in a storyline that might have been decided behind closed doors. And that brings us back to leadership. The role of a commissioner isn't just to shake hands and hand out trophies. It's to lead, to prevent this exact kind of collapse. If Adam Silver and Cathy Engelbert weren't prepared for this, or didn't act when they should have, the leagues need new leadership. Immediately. Because this scandal isn't going away. In fact, it's just beginning. The next few weeks will be brutal. More raids, more statements, more fallout. The leagues will try to control the message. They'll try to show strength. But the truth is, they've already lost control. The narrative now belongs to the investigators, the courts, and public opinion. This is a wake-up call the leagues can't afford to ignore. And it's one the fans won't forget. Let us know what you think. Is this the end of the road for Adam Silver and Cathy Engelbert? Can the leagues recover from this? Or has the damage already been done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're shocked this went as far as it did. Share this with anyone still pretending it's just another controversy. And subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter, because trust, it's coming. Here's the part that really sinks in. If the leagues didn't know this was happening, that's bad. But if they did know, even a fraction of it, and stayed silent, that's unforgivable, because we're not talking about petty rule breaking. This is federal-level criminal activity. Game manipulation, insider trading, and illegal gambling aren't just against league policy. They're federal offenses. And when you're running billion-dollar organizations like the NBA and WNBA, your one job is to protect the sport from this exact kind of rot. Instead, the FBI had to do it for them. Let that settle in. The federal government is currently doing the job that league compliance offices were either unable or unwilling to do. That tells us everything we need to know about the state of oversight in professional basketball. All the systems in place, the protocols, the ethics training, the integrity hotlines, they failed. Miserably. What's even more alarming is that this didn't come from some obscure corner of the league. The people involved, Terry Rozier, Shanna Phillips, are right in the mix. Active, visible, respected. This isn't one rogue scout placing bets on the side. It's core league personnel allegedly participating in criminal activity that jeopardizes the legitimacy of entire seasons. And fans are supposed to just move on? What about the games that may have been compromised? What about the wins and losses that were affected? The playoff runs? The injuries that changed outcomes? What if all of that wasn't just part of the game, but part of the scheme? That's the kind of fallout you can't fix with a PR team. This cuts to the heart of why people care about sports in the first place. It's not just entertainment. It's competition. It's loyalty. It's years of investment. Emotional, financial, cultural. People grow up with these teams. They name their dogs after players. They cry when their team wins a title. And now they have to sit with the possibility that it might have all been fake. The betrayal is personal, and the leagues know it. You can see it in how fast they're trying to cooperate. Statements are being drafted. Meetings are being held. But what's painfully obvious is that they were completely unprepared for this. The NBA and WNBA got caught playing defense on a problem they should have been proactively investigating. The worst part? They let the door open years ago. When sports betting was legalized and embraced by the leagues, there were warnings. Analysts, watchdogs, ethics boards, all of them saying the same thing. If you're going to let betting in, you have to build the firewalls to keep it clean. You need real-time monitoring. You need independent oversight. You need to make sure that players, coaches, and staff can't exploit their access to inside information. And what did the leagues do? They cashed in. Betting partnerships became the norm. Teams signed deals with sportsbooks. Odds were posted during broadcasts. And fans were sold on the thrill of engagement without ever getting the full picture of how dangerous this setup could be if left unchecked. Well, here we are. The warning signs weren't just ignored. They were monetized. Now, with federal investigators digging through phone records and property documents, every decision made by league leadership over the last 5 years is being re-examined through a very different lens. And for Cathy Engelbert and Adam Silver, there's nowhere to hide. This isn't a PR crisis. It's a legal one. The government doesn't care about your legacy. It doesn't care how many partnerships you signed or how inclusive your marketing campaigns were. The feds are here for one reason: to determine whether crimes were committed and who's responsible. And if that trail leads to the top, it's game over. Which raises the question, how deep does this go? It's already hit the Lakers. Other teams are likely under quiet investigation. Staff are cooperating. Phones have been turned in. Every piece of communication is being dissected. This isn't going to be wrapped up in a month. This could go on for a year or more, especially if indictments keep coming. And that's not just disruptive. That's destabilizing. You can't run a clean league with a cloud like this hanging over it. Fans lose faith. Sponsors get nervous. Networks start asking questions. And every single game gets viewed through a new, suspicious lens. Was that missed free throw just nerves? Or something else? Was that fourth quarter collapse bad strategy? Or something more deliberate? When trust is broken, every moment becomes a potential red flag. And once you lose credibility, you can't just win it back with a good playoff run. You have to rebuild from scratch. That's what the leagues are facing now. They need more than policy updates, more than compliance memos. They need a top-to-bottom audit of everything, from how they track communication to how they vet personnel. And they need to do it in full view of the public, or else no one's going to believe a word of it. Because right now, the fans are ahead of the leagues. They've seen enough scandals to know when they're being spun. And this is too big to spin. If this leads to charges against leadership, it'll be one of the most dramatic collapses in modern sports history. Not because of the crime alone, but because of the arrogance that allowed it to happen. The belief that the brand was strong enough to absorb anything. That public loyalty would always outweigh private misconduct. That's the real story here. The leagues thought they were untouchable. They thought that as long as they controlled the narrative, they could outpace the truth. But now the narrative is in the hands of federal prosecutors, and there's no media training in the world that prepares you for a courtroom. Adam Silver's calm demeanor? Useless now. Cathy Engelbert's corporate polish? Doesn't matter, because the evidence speaks louder than any commissioner ever could. And that brings us to now, to this moment where the sports world holds its breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop. More names, more teams, more fallout. Because once these investigations start, they don't stop at the surface. They dig. And what they uncover could alter the course of professional basketball forever. Here's what makes this whole thing even more damning. The leagues have always sold themselves as models of integrity. The NBA in particular has built a brand around progressiveness, transparency, and being ahead of the curve. They don't just manage a sport, they manage perception. Adam Silver was practically untouchable for years. Cool, diplomatic, polished. The commissioner who gets it. The anti-Stern. And now? Now his name is showing up next to federal subpoenas. You can't slap integrity on a slogan and call it a day. Because when the system breaks this badly, when you've got players, coaches, teams, and possibly the commissioners themselves under federal investigation, that word loses all meaning. It's not just a PR buzzword anymore. It's a standard they failed to meet on every level. Let's be brutally honest. The leagues weren't built to handle this. Sure, they've got internal investigators, compliance officers, handbooks, but none of that holds up when the FBI steps in with full subpoena power. The kind of tools that go beyond corporate policy. This isn't about fines or suspensions. This is about indictments, possible jail time, and the legal exposure of leadership figures who are supposed to prevent exactly this. When high-level executives get caught in a scandal this big, it's never just about the crimes. It's about the cover-up. What do they know? When did they know it? And what did they choose to do with that information? Because the truth is, scandals like this don't explode overnight. They simmer, quietly, through emails, private messages, off-the-record conversations. And when you have a system that thrives on access, insider connections, whispered injury updates, behind-the-scenes footage, it becomes way too easy for bad actors to exploit that for personal gain. The fact that the FBI is now in possession of team phone records, travel schedules, and internal communications, that should terrify anyone still clinging to the idea that this was some fringe issue. They're not just looking at individuals. They're mapping entire networks. And when they pull on that thread, when they match up messages, betting patterns, travel logs, it's going to be very clear who knew what and when. And here's where things get uglier. This isn't just about who committed the acts. It's about who allowed them to happen, who enabled the culture that let this grow. Because for every person actively involved, there are probably 5 more who knew something was off and said nothing. And that silence? It's just as dangerous. That's how corruption survives. Not because of the crime itself, but because of the system that allows it to stay hidden. So when fans see Silver and Engelbert now claiming cooperation, you have to ask, where was that energy when the red flags first started showing up? And they did show up. You don't get a federal investigation of this magnitude without some kind of paper trail. Someone reported something. Someone saw something. And yet, here we are, at the center of a full-blown crisis that should have been stopped long before it became national news. The truth is, the leagues were willing to risk it. They gambled, literally, on the idea that regulated betting would boost engagement, revenue, and viewership without ever truly preparing for the consequences. And now those consequences are here. Sponsors are watching. Congress is circling. And fans are checking out. Because no matter how exciting a game is, if the outcome feels predetermined or tainted, it's not a sport anymore. It's theater. And not even good theater. It's rigged, empty, manipulated. The moment people stop believing in the authenticity of the result, the entire operation collapses. You can't sell competition if no one trusts the scoreboard. And right now, trust is at 0. Even teams that had nothing to do with the scandal are now in damage control mode. Every coach, every player, every executive is under scrutiny. People who have never placed a bet in their life are being pulled into the storm, guilty by association. Because that's how wide the net is now. Once the FBI gets involved, no one is immune from investigation. And the fallout isn't just reputational. It's financial. These leagues are built on TV deals, corporate sponsorships, and fan engagement. If the public perception becomes this league is rigged, advertisers walk. Broadcasters start reconsidering. And fans? They stop tuning in. You don't buy tickets to a show when you already know how it ends. The question now is, what's left to save? If Adam Silver and Cathy Engelbert are forced out, the next leadership wave has to be more than symbolic. The leagues need actual reform. independent oversight, transparent reporting systems, and yes, real consequences, ones that go beyond PR stunts. Because let's not forget, this investigation is ongoing. More names will drop. More arrests could follow. And when that happens, the public will be watching how the leagues respond, not just what they say. They've had too many second chances. Too many will do better next time moments. There's no next time after this. The public wants accountability. Fans want to know that the games they love are real, that the athletes are competing for something more than a shady payout behind the scenes, that when their team wins or loses, it means something. That's what's on the line here. And if the leagues can't guarantee that, if they can't prove that the system is fair, clean, and trustworthy, then they don't deserve the audience. So we wait for indictments, for resignations, for the next shoe to drop, because it will drop. Let us know where you stand. Are the commissioners finished? Should the leagues be rebuilt from the ground up? And do you believe we've seen the worst, or is there more to come? Comment with your take. Like the video if you think this scandal is far bigger than people are admitting. Share it with someone who needs to wake up to how serious this has become. And hit subscribe. We're following this story wherever it leads. And if what we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg, we're going to need every update we can get.